If you're deploying capital on an Ethereum Layer 2 right now, you probably feel pretty secure, right? I mean, you're likely relying on all those marketing buzzwords we constantly hear, like trustless execution. But today, we're going to dig into the latest data from L2BEAT, along with a really detailed security report from ZLinks to uncover what is, frankly, a massive blind spot in crypto right now. We're going to expose what I'm calling the Layer 2 illusion. We're going to look at the hard data, cut through the noise, and figure out why the underlying security of your favorite networks might not be exactly what you think it is. Let's kick things off with a number that sets the stakes right away. $48 billion. As of April 2026, there's over $48 billion in total value locked, TVL, just sitting on Ethereum Layer 2s. That isn't just, experimental liquidity. We're talking about massive institutional treasuries, incredibly deep stablecoin pools, and the capital of literally millions of everyday users. It really establishes the sheer massive scale of the capital at stake here. The market has definitively chosen Layer 2s as the execution environment of the future. But look, with this much capital on the line, the actual underlying security infrastructure, that becomes the single most important conversation we can possibly have. And that $48 billion? It's currently spread out across 73 active rollups tracked by L2BEAT. 73. The ecosystem has just expanded like wildfire. But here is the massive blind spot I mentioned a minute ago. Most users navigating these networks have absolutely no idea what security stage their chosen network is actually at. We all just kind of naturally assume that if a network is live and, processing thousands of transactions a second, it simply must be fully decentralized. But the reality, the vast majority of that capital is sitting in systems that are a long, long way from their final form. Fortunately, we can actually measure this maturity objectively. L2BEAT uses a stages framework that decodes this whole complex landscape in plain, precise terms. At the very bottom, you have stage 0. This is the training wheels phase. It means the project is still effectively controlled by a few centralized entities. Moving up, we hit stage 1. This means the network has a working, permissionless proof system, but there are still limited council overrides, usually a security council that can intervene if things go wrong. And finally, we have stage 2. That's the fully trustless ideal. At stage 2, the rollup is governed entirely by code, the proof system is permissionless, and users are guaranteed a minimum 30-day exit window for any upgrades. Here's the sobering fact, though. As of mid-2026, not a single major network has achieved stage 2. Most are sitting much lower on this scale. To really wrap our heads around what these stages mean for your actual money, we have to frame this decentralization debate practically. Let's just forget the dense technical jargon for a second and introduce what we call the walkaway test. It's a very simple, practical question. Can a user exit safely to the Ethereum mainnet if the rollup operator disappears or goes rogue? Think about it. If the company behind your favorite Layer 2 goes bankrupt tomorrow, or if a multisig council just decides to halt the chain, can you get your funds out? If the answer is no, you're not in a trustless system. You are literally just trusting a centralized group of humans to behave honestly. So the absolute crucial point here is understanding the difference between the mechanism and the policy. See, in the crypto industry, there's this really pervasive myth that advanced math automatically equals decentralized governance. We hear terms like zero-knowledge cryptography or validity proofs, and we instantly assume the network is inherently safe. But we have to systematically deconstruct that idea. ZK cryptography is just the mechanism. It mathematically proves the state transition is correct. But the upgrade keys, that is the policy. And the policy is controlled by humans. You can have the most advanced cryptographic engine in the world, but if a centralized group of humans holds the steering wheel, they can drive the car wherever they want. And this brings us to a really fascinating twist in the market today. Let's look at zkSync, Era, and Linea. These are absolute heavyweights. zkSync Era holds $4.1 billion in TVL, and Linea holds $3.4 billion in TVL. Both of these networks use incredibly sophisticated ZK-Snark proof systems. They are at the absolute cutting edge of cryptographic math. And yet, despite securing billions in capital, both of them are classified as stage 0 on L2BEAT. So why is that? It's because their upgrade keys are still multisig controlled by small sets of operators. They've basically traded decentralization maturity for ZK innovation velocity. So yes, the math is trustless, but the governance over that math, it's completely centralized. Let's actually pull back the curtain on how this multisig control works in practice, looking specifically at zkSync Era's documented architecture. They use mechanisms like a security council, guardian roles, and foundation multisig thresholds. In their system, these specific groups hold the power to execute emergency upgrade paths. So what does that mean for you? It means that if a specific threshold of signatures is met, those humans can push a contract upgrade that changes the core rules of the network immediately. They could pause the bridge, they could alter the proving system, or trap funds, entirely bypassing the standard governance delays and time locks. Which brings us to a very rigorous conclusion from the Z-Link security report that perfectly lands our main thesis for this explainer. They spell it out explicitly, and I'll quote it directly. If a multisig can upgrade the Rollups L1 contracts without delay, the proof system is irrelevant. Just let that sink in for a second. It honestly doesn't matter if you have a flawless ZK snarks or some impenetrable fraud-proof bisection game. If a small group of human operators can push an instant override to the Layer 1 contracts, it completely nullifies the security of the underlying math. The actual trust boundary is the multisig, not the cryptography. And this right here is exactly why the exit window is such a critical metric when you're evaluating where to deploy your capital. Take Arbitrum 1, OP mainnet, or Base. They are firmly Stage 1 networks. What sets them apart in terms of user safety is their documented, regular upgrade path, which requires a mandatory time lock. For example, Arbitrum has a documented approximately 17+ days time lock. That means if the DAO initiates an upgrade you disagree with, you'll have a guaranteed window of time to pack your bags, use the walkaway test, and exit to mainnet. Contrast that with Stage 0 networks that allow 0-day instant upgrades. In those systems, the rules can change immediately, leaving you with absolutely no exit window to protect your assets. So how do we actually navigate this landscape safely? Well, I want to leave you with a concrete closing checklist to rigorously verify any Layer 2 network's actual security profile before you deploy a single dollar. Step 1. Check L2BEAT directly. It is by far the most transparent, objective source we have in the space. Step 2. Verify the stage. Is it Stage 0, meaning the training wheels are still firmly on? Or is it Stage 1, where permissionless proofs are actually live? And Step 3. Confirm the upgrade time lock and the exit window. Look past the high TVL, look past the blazing fast transaction speeds, and ask yourself how much time you mathematically have to exit if the operators decide to change the protocol overnight. At the end of the day, as Ethereum continues to scale and billions more flow into these execution layers, we absolutely have to demand clarity over marketing. The transition to fully trustless Stage 2 systems is very much a work in progress, and until we actually get there, residual trust assumptions remain a reality for all of us. So I'll leave you with a final provocative thought to consider the next time you're getting ready to bridge your assets to a shiny new network. Look past the illusion of trustless systems, do the work to independently verify the reality, and ask yourself, who really holds the keys to your capital? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to navigate the Layer 2 space with a lot more precision.